Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior and respected professional from Zurich, Switzerland, Derinda Brown. Derinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Asha.
Thank,
Appreciate the invite, and it's a privilege.
thank you. Derinda is the principal consultant with Wilde Ace Private Limited. So, my first question, take us through your professional journey and what were some of the defining moments that shaped your career across multiple industries in multiple continents?
Uh, my career has been shaped less by sort of job titles and more by
Mhm.
people and environment. Deliberately tried to discipline myself in different verticals to be more relatable, potentially sit on boards, governance, and make recommendations and have empathy for and different visibility and empathy for different verticals.
Hmm.
And integrated resorts, where I've spent a lot of my time, has really given me that. So
Mhm.
the different disciplines I really enjoy. So it includes like strategy, customer service, commerce, loyalty, payments, fintech. It's been quite broad,
Hmm.
but the industries have changed, but the core challenge is often still the same.
Yeah.
And I try and always say that to people. It's how do you create relevance, trust, and commercial value in a world that keeps sort of changing? So
Hmm.
one defining moment was learning that customer experience is not a department, it's an entire organization.
Hmm.
And experience through the eyes of the customer is really important.
Yeah.
The other defining moment was technology can scale a business, but only if the business inside understands why it sort of matters.
Hmm.
And a dear friend of mine said to me, a fool with a tool is just a faster fool. And
Okay.
yes, and I thought that was really quite relevant because we always think, put the AI in and that'll solve it. But can sometimes expose the same mistake faster and the customer experience can deteriorate quicker. So I think that's a really
Well
valuable
said.
lesson I've learned in the different industries.
Well said. And you have worked across so many diverse industries. What has enabled you to adapt so successfully?
I thi- Well, I think I don't define myself by an industry. I think that's really important. And I define myself as a high level complex problem solver.
Hmm.
So if you like to tie into the Switzerland landscape, I'm like a Swiss Army knife. And I think that's what organizations need. They're changing so dramatically. Technology is really pushing organizations rapidly.
Hmm.
There's this sort of fear and embracement, probably equally that I see about around AI and technology. And I just feel having that lots of experience in different disciplines makes you adapt really quickly. People want to feel recognized and want respect and connection. That hasn't changed. I still see
Hmm.
that quite regularly. They want systems to be easy, their organization to be fair, and their technology to help them and not overwhelm them. So many people are feeling overwhelmed, with technology that's sort of forced upon them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if that helps, but
absolutely.
I've got this curiosity around people. So I think that
Hmm.
human layer is really important.
Absolutely. Well said. In your experience, Dorinda, what separates organizations that transform successfully from those that struggle with change?
Yeah, this is a great question. I feel that the organizations that transform successfully understand that transformation is not a technology project, it's a value creation project. And it's about having the experience that's going to improve and what value you're trying to create and what behaviors need to change.
Hmm.
I often see organizations put in the technology and then rework it backwards, where you need to look at it forwards, the reverse. If the
Hmm.
customer journey is broken, technology won't fix it. Like I said before, it'll probably just expedite the cracks and faster, which can create turmoil. The customers that and companies that successfully do transformation, I think take responsibility. They also have experts around them as well to help that transformation keep on track.
Mm,
I I enjoy having where you've got a C-suite from the CEO down, embracing and taking accountability and responsibility, but that also can bring in external consultants or transformation experts to expedite that process and take, because not everyone's skill set could be in each discipline. So don't be afraid to get the experts to help you along that process.
mm,
People do not resist change because they're difficult. I think they resist change because they don't understand it and they do not trust it or can't see where they fit in and the benefits for them.
mm.
People always move towards what they believe will benefit them and move away from what they don't believe will benefit them. So I just think we need to keep that in mind when you're doing the transformations. It's still that human layer.
Correct, correct. How should business leaders balance short-term performance pressures with long-term strategic investments?
Leaders, I think, need to just stop short-term performance and long-term investment as opposites. Strong performance today funds relevance for tomorrow. So the discipline is to manage the business at a portfolio,
Mm,
protect the core, improve the core, balance, adjust growth, and invest selectively in the future. The leaders who need to encourage to stop doing things that no longer create value. This challenges some ego and some self-worth. Sometimes that can be a little bit challenging. One of the hardest disciplines for leaders is focus. In the world of endless technology, endless data, endless opportunity, leaders must become really good at saying no and keeping very focused. Then that will become a discipline.
mm,
Not every idea deserves an investment. Not every IA use case deserves funding. Not every transformation program deserves to continue. So I always say, like, learn. It's okay to stop something and start something new. Don't be afraid.
mm,
Best leaders often ask things like, what must we defend? What can we improve? What can we stop? What must be built now and is irrelevant for 5 years. And long-term strategy is not a luxury, it's an organization to avoid becoming irrelevant.
mm. Okay. And how has the role of strategy evolved in an increasingly digital and AI-driven world?
Well, strategy, I think, has really moved from being this static document that's living in operational systems that you review. I remember in my career, you used to all go away and look at a strategy once a year, and you might have quarterly, maybe reviews. That's completely in the past. Strategy, we often something it needs to be dynamic and data informed and super really adaptive.
Mm,
It's not something that's visited. It needs to be almost, it's probably third on the agenda every
mm,
agenda.
mm.
AI doesn't replace strategy. It increases the need for strategic judgment, if
Right.
anything. The real question is, for me, not about simply how organizations use AI. The better question is where AI can create value that matters. So,
Mm,
can it improve the customer experience? Can it reduce friction? Can it increase trust? Support better decisions? Free people to do more meaningful work? That's a big one for me in legal
mm,
AI.
mm.
Can it help communities access services more fairly? There's this whole government piece that's really interesting.
Mm.
And competitive advantage will not come from using AI alone. It
Right.
still comes from combining AI with customers, understanding what you're looking at, trusting the data, government's operating model, redesign, and human. There's still this human judgment that I think is AI is not there yet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to get there yet, but it'd be interesting. The future of strategy is still value led, I
Mm.
think.
Great.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that
Great
helps.
response. What does a successful transformation program look like from both a business and a people perspective?
That's a great question. Business the business case answers the value and the transformation will create. The value maybe say revenue growth, cost reduction, speed, relevance, customer retention, risk, stronger enterprise value, those sort of things. And the customer case answers why should people believe in the change? So employees need to understand why the transformation matters, what is changing, what is not changing, what role do they play, and how will they be supported?
Mm.
Transformation fails when people feel it's being done for them. So it succeeds when people feel they're part of building sort of their future.
Mm.
Still, you can redeploy and you can reskill as long as you explain it. And that is why the human layer is so important. Systems can design perfectly on paper, but if people don't trust them or use them, or more importantly, believe in them, transformation just won't happen.
Amazing. How are customer expectations changing in the age of digital experiences and instant gratification?
Oh my, very fast.
Hmm.
Customers expect speed, relevance, recognition, and simplicity. It's like an integrated into their everyday life. They don't want it to be a friction point. So
Hmm.
they do not compare one organization only with its direct competitors. They compare every experience with the best experience they had that week. So you're not sort of, if back in the day you're sort of fighting in your vertical, now you're fighting across life in itself. That has lifted the standard for everybody. Customers want organizations to know them, but not exploit them.
Hmm.
They want personalization, but no control. They want speed, but also trust. It's just this constant sort of juggle. They
Yeah.
want digital convenience, but they expect the human layer when moments matter. So they expect it, like, if you've got an insurance claim or whatever the example might be, they sort of expect it to integrate at that point in time.
Hmm.
Future of customer experience is digitally enabled, but human aware. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just how I think that human layer still needs to sit. Um, so just ease, relevant, trust, emotional value, I think is really important.
Hmm. And what
Visual,
role, in your opinion, does data play in creating personalized customer experiences without crossing privacy boundaries?
I love aggregated data. I enjoy it. I'm fascinated by the social psychology of it. But data is one of the most powerful assets in modern business, but it must be treated as a trust asset, not just a commercial asset. Personalization works when it's created value for the customer, and it fails when it's invasive, manipulative, or careless. And I would probably experience that once or twice a week.
Mhm.
My principle is simple. Data should be used to serve the customer, not stalk the customer. It needs to be aggregated and smart. And
Mm.
the best personalization is permission-based, transparent, useful, timely, proportionate, and respectful. But that I think is extremely important, and you can set those parameters very easily.
Mm.
It must be a clear value exchange. And if the customer gives an organization their data, then they should receive something meaningful in return. It's this value exchange. It's not
Mm.
just one way anymore. Convenience, recognition, savings, safety, better service, and more relevant experiences. It's a tough. This is a really critical piece of work that when it works, great, it's wonderful. But it's sort of when it's not so great, the customer disengages almost immediately.
Fair enough.
Privacy, yeah, privacy is not anti-innovation. I just want to point that out. Good privacy creates trust that requires innovation to scale. I don't think, I think we need to be really clear about that. Customers aren't data points, they're people making decisions about who they trust.
Okay. My next question is that AI is transforming every industry. Where do you believe we are today on the AI adoption curve?
I think we're just at the beginning. Um, so I've been following, well, as an engineer, and building technology, literally the infrastructure, right into my career. I feel that um, we're at the beginning. I've been in this industry a long time, and I just feel that we're just really starting. So I think we're at the beginning of the bell curve.
Mhm.
Past the curiosity and experimentation stage, but we're yet to fulfill enterprise maturity, I feel. Um, Many organizations have AI tools, pilots, and a lot of enthusiasm, but few have redesigned their workflows, governance, data, foundations, operating models around AI. I still feel there's quite a big gap.
Mhm.
I would describe this moment as the shift from AI as a productivity tool, to an AI that's an operating model transformation. I think that
Mhm.
piece is still moving. The first phase was like experimental, and the next phase is more integration, and then the emerging phase is more sort of agent and AI. So, different, I think in my experience, different verticals or industries are at different paces, and that pace varies around the world depending on governance, but I still feel we're quite at the infancy. The winners will not be organizations that adopt AI fast. The winners will be organizations that know where AI creates value. I'm seeing a bit of a race in some industries, and there's not a lot, we're still learning, but there's still, I don't race, just be really strategic about what you do, and choose which battles that you want to
Mhm.
fight. And it's not about replacing people with tools. It's just sort of it's about recreating the whole workflow. So about the best combination between sort of human capability and machine intelligence, if you like, to simplify it together. So
What
I
are
still think a lot to learn.
Yeah, what are the biggest misconceptions leaders have about AI transformation?
Um, I think AI is going to reshape regulated industries profoundly by
Mhm.
adoptions, and must be disciplined, explained, and sort of governed. Um, I think it depends on the industry, but in law, I'd say AI will transform research, document review, discovery, drafting, contracts. That's going to be very disruptive. And I feel some professions or industries are still not looking at their pricing elasticity and their sort of costing models and things like that. But judgment about ethics and advocacy and client care and justice remain deeply human. In government, well, this is a really interesting debate, but in government, AI can improve citizen services like policy, analytics, fraud detection, resource allocation, and administration efficiency that could really impact literally macroeconomics like GDP, quite quickly. If you want to inject an industry, you could inject that very quick. You get that piece right, you can inject right down to what consumers buy by SKU level to shift GDP, for example. I mean, that's exciting. If I was in government, that would be really exciting. So I just feel different industries are at different places, and some professionals um, understand it and don't want to exploit it, and some want to exploit it and not understand it. I feel like there's two groups.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah.
I've got another example, like in finance, AI can reshape fraud detection, risk modeling, compliance monitoring, credit discussions, customer service. But the question in regulated environments is not whether AI can perform the task, because we know it can, but is it trusted, explained, audited, and governed?
Hmm.
And there's lots of discussions around protecting people through governance, which is really interesting. So I think there's a fair bit of space,
Okay.
fair bit of work in that
Yeah.
space.
Didn't have time for two more questions. How do you see the relationship between human judgment and AI evolving over the next decade?
The biggest, I think, misconception is that AI transformation is a technology project. It's not. It's a business model, and operating model, and government's culture, people, and transformation. It's just a part of all of that, and that it automatically creates productivity. I don't necessarily think so. It could create more. So I think some of these misconceptions is like, oh, I'll put AI in and productivity will increase. Well, will it? How do we know that? What does that look like? I'm curious about that. I just think there's all these misconceptions like I'll get AI and everything's going to be faster. And comes back to the joke that my friend told me, a fool with a tool is just a faster fool, right? So a better question around governments and sort of judgment, just as much as more data, is another misconception is AI removes the need for people. In reality, AI makes human judgment more important, especially in ethics, risk, sort of empathy, context is really important, and accountability. And it does not, often leaders believe every AI use case deserves investment, and it doesn't. So the best AI leaders are disciplined. They avoid AI theatre, if you like. They avoid scattered pilots, and they focus on just a few cases and changes in customer value, cost structure, risk management, whatever it might be. And the real question is not how to use AI. The real question is what value you're trying to create and for whom.
Derinda, we've run out of time, so I just want to say thank you so much for a fabulous conversation. I'm sure my viewers and listeners will really enjoy listening to a lot of your thoughts. Thank you again. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.